Right, good afternoon, gamers, and welcome to a brand new experience when the Vampire the Masquerade universe, otherwise known as the World of Darkness. I am kind of rambling as I collect my thoughts together, but thank you for joining me in Parliament of Knives by Jeffrey Dean. I'm going to be 3000% honest with you. While I did know what was going on with Night Roads, having done a number of read throughs of it on my own, this is my very first time doing one for Parliament of Knives. I'm very much looking forward to it. About the only thing I know about it is, as you can probably tell by the title, that it takes place in Canada, of all places. So I, for one, am very much, excited to get into it. As per usual with these things, I've got Rik Schaffer's music in the link, as well as in the bio rather, as well as the Steam store page for Parliament of Knives. Without any further ado, we're gonna go ahead and begin. Start my little timer here to make sure we don't stay on this for too terribly long. Chapter 1: Incursion. I extend a hand to the rabble on the spirit of friendship of tolerance. Such forward thinking always foments dissent, as I have learned by studying the mistakes of my mentor in the glory days of London before Mithras's return. Modern mortals have a saying for this: no good deed goes unpunished. From the journals of Arundel, Prince of Ottawa. That's where that came from. There's blood beneath your fingernails, remnants of a nightly ritual that has somehow become routine. Your hunger stirs deep within, lured by the scent, but you cast it from your mind. There are more important matters afoot. The full moon casts its ruddy blessings on the blood hunt, spiriting your band of assassins through long cast shadows among the irregular peaks and valleys of an unintended construction site. You lance through the night, a deadly arrow seeking the heart of a vampire you'd heard much of but never knew. Robert Ward, defected from the high society of Ottawa's Camarilla elite to endure in the filth among the clanless and the anarchs. Long years of leisure benefiting your rank have left your survival skills blunted, but the thrill of the hunt has brought old instincts, once thought forgotten, back to the surface, seething with untapped potential. You know this to be true, you can feel it in your bones, but one siren song calls above all others, driving you to distraction. There's blood beneath your fingernails. Your feeding before the hunt had been a hurried one, and you'd left your victim dazed as you dabbed your mouth. Sheriff Q, I'm calling them Sheriff Q. Sheriff Q impatiently ushering you to join his motley band of kindred and mortal mercenaries for the hunt. The smell of blood on your fingertips conjures images of the mortal shivering while, sorry, start that over. The smell of blood on your fingertips conjures images of the mortal shivering while you slaked your thirst, their wide doe eyes, glassy and empty of concern. In the decades since your embrace, you've distanced yourself from the horror of your nightly existence, not the least of which was divorcing yourself entirely from the indelicate art of finding your own victims. Let's see. Okay. Sure, why not? I like the idea of having a ghoul from the start. My manservant, Gerard, is responsible for catching and sedating my prey. In the years since you acquired him, Gerard has been an excellent and loyal retainer in all respects. He takes his duties seriously and has rarely disappointed you or left you hungry. Over the years, you managed to convince yourself that there was nothing inherently wrong or unnatural about the act of feeding on the blood of the living, but a small part of you, one that remembers a time when your heart beat within your chest, cries out with every opportunity to remind you that you were damned. As with many other kindred, you kept your original name and aspects of your mortal identity, whether as a subconscious effort to anchor your new existence in a bedrock of memorialized humanity or simple nostalgia. You cannot say for sure, but it fits you, and it is yours alone. What name tethers this unlife to a life once lived? None of these names are my own. I'll go with Pauline. I hope I spelled Pauline properly, otherwise this is going to be a fun thing. You had a family name once, and though it is rarely used, a part of you still clings to its memory. None of these are my family name. Steele. There you go, Pauline Steele. Moonlight glints off shards of broken glass as you creep along the length of a slowly decaying brick wall, an extended arm of the construction crew's crane shooting your party in its brooding shadow. The sound of your footsteps is masked by the rushing water of the near hydroelectric dam restraining the waters of Chartery Falls. Sheriff Q's mortal mercenaries are arrayed like a shield around their masters in a wedge of jet black body armor and bristling semi-automatic rifles. They seem on edge tonight, professional and competent as always, but there's something in their eyes that betrays uncertainty. Ooh, that is an image of the Nosferatu. Ahead of you, Bouchard raises a long, gnarled hand in warning, and you stop in your tracks. Like all kindred of Clan Nosferatu, Bouchard's appearance is monstrous and inhumane, or inhuman rather. Even his facial features are twisted and misshapen. He turns and raises a finger to his lips, a massive pus-filled boil stretching the skin impressively below the first knuckle. A part of you wonders if the old vampire misses the nightlife above the ground, enjoyed by the majority of kindred not afflicted by the Nosferatu's curse. Ward's anarchs have set up a perimeter. He gestures at the shadowed carcass of a long abandoned factory not far ahead, and you catch a brief glimpse of movement. We should cut around, over the rubble. Even his whispers grate and gurgle like the depths of a sewer. They weren't supposed to know we were coming, Pauline, Jordan pipes up from behind you, taking advantage of the moment to tie back wisps of messy red hair and an impromptu top knot. She may not care much for me, but Corliss is your sire. She should have been more certain before sending us in. I'm getting a bad read on this one. Eden Corliss is acting as seneschal of the city, second in command to Prince Arundel himself, and also your sire, the vampire who embraced you as a mortal and brought you into the hidden world of the kindred. Every vampire is reborn into a bloodline that some scholars and cultists believe to be a direct lineage leading back to a progenitor of the biblical age, Cain himself. Clans have formed around these bloodlines, each possessed of certain gifts. These abilities are passed from sire to child, always marginally diluted, the further their generation is removed from their clan's founder. You didn't choose the clan you were brought into, but you adapted well enough over the decades, mastering the disciplines of your clan to the best of your ability. Corliss has seemed pleased with your progress, and when Corliss is pleased, you slumber more soundly. The effects of these disciplines may now be read under stats page. If you are unfamiliar with Vampire the Masquerade, you may want to examine them before okay. I was originally planning on making a joke about having all Tremere, a whole Tremere lineup, one for Night Roads, one for this, one for Bloodline, so on and so forth, but it doesn't seem as if that's an option. So we're just going to go with my personal, never mind, recommended for experienced players who have already completed the game once. Maybe there are spoilers abound, never mind. In that case, we will, oh boy, this is fun. Sure, let's go with Clan Lasombra. They're cool, they're fun, they're fine even. I really like Clan Lasombra. It's my second favorite clan. I am of Clan Lasombra, calculating and fierce. Once my clan were enemies to the kindred establishment, but in modern nights the established order has begun to change. My sire and I were forced to masquerade as Ventrue for years, but the time for such deception is coming to an end. And those are my disciplines. Shadows, traitors, and turncoats. You've heard all the slurs for your clan before, but in instances where the name Lasombra simply won't do, you prefer to think of yourself as a magister. For centuries your clan has ruled from the darkness, subverted the world's religions, and manipulated political events to benefit yourselves. Once the de facto heads of the terrifyingly monstrous Sabbat, many Lasombra have since been forced into an uneasy alliance with the establishment, Camarilla. Unfortunately for you, old prejudices have a habit of lingering in the ancient order, and you've been forced to hide your true nature from all but a select few confidants. Corliss, as always, was ahead of the curve. Well over a century ago, she recognized Prince Arundel's rising star and formed an alliance with him, fanning the flames of his unusual tendency to accept kindred of clans other than of clans that other Ventrue would never welcome into their inner circle. When he became Prince of Ottawa, Arundel kept your sire's secret, presenting her as a fellow Ventrue of the court. If any kindred remained unfooled, they wisely decided to keep their mouths shut. Your sire has groomed you for a high-ranking position since the moment she drained the life from your mortal body, and she was as strict in her discipline as she was stoic when meting out punishments for failure. As her child, your behavior reflects on her capabilities, and failure is simply not an option. Pauline, Jordan asks, watching you quizzically. Sheriff Q has paused behind Bouchard to watch you in obvious impatience. Jordan was right, of course. Your sire surely did her homework before sending you out here, and she's put too much work into you to send you into a trap unaware. That could only mean something has changed and the Anarchs are on the move, perhaps making some kind of power play. It's up to your band to stop them before they can threaten your prince's domain during his absence. You shake your head and try to focus on the matters at hand. We, not, we might not be able to take them head on if they're guarding the entrance, you whisper, index fingers tracing the curved trigger of your Desert Eagle, a gift from Corliss that you've only recently reacquainted yourself with. The gun feels alien in your grip, but you're certain that your training will kick in if it comes to that. Our briefing said that Ward's quarters are in the back of the inn factory. Maybe we could cut around. Q motions for the rest of you to shrink as far back in the shadows as possible while a path forward is deliberated. He sets down a heavy gasoline can, and you can hear the liquid inside sloshing back and forth, yearning to be set alight. Long black hair frames the eagerness on his face. Q would be considered good-looking as Nosferatu go, but even then there's something unsettling about him by mortal standards, something impossible to place a finger on. I'm not sure if I agree with your sentiment, Pauline. There are dozens of us plus our mercenaries, and there should be less than 6 of them, even in the worst-case scenario, sentries or no, he says, lips pursed thinly in thought. But you're right, that we might be served taking an alternate route. Destroying Ward would be significantly more difficult without the element of surprise. You haven't met him before. Trust me when I say that, like most of the rabble, he's not to be trifled with. And don't forget the most important thing. Once he's incapacitated, we'll need to let the fire do the rest. That way there's no coming back. The British accent in that, not British, but the European accent in that voice did not give off a flattering thing. I wasn't trying to do anything insensitive there. Once the sheriff has finished speaking, one of your party pushes forward from behind you to address you. It's Luca, moonlight glinting off of inquisitive eyes with narrowed worry. The elder child of Corliss, she's recently returned from overseas where she managed your mutual sire's business interests. Despite your barely knowing each other, she's taken to you with what seems like genuine enthusiasm, greeting you like a long-absent sibling. She uses long, laggard fingernails to sweep a length of fine brown hair away from her cheek. She'd arrived for the raid dressed in a fashion more suitable for a business lunch than a blood hunt, but you were relieved she chose dark colors at the very least. I've run the numbers, she says in a barely audible whisper. The intelligence reports show that there shouldn't be more than 6 Anarchs in the city at the moment. All the others we've been tracking have shown their faces around Montreal within the last few nights. They could have made their way here by now, at least in theory, but my eyes and ears in Quebec are certain that they haven't left. That settles it then, Q says decisively. No retreat, Pauline. He grabs your full attention. Nests of Anarchs infiltrating our prince's domain without his knowledge or blessing or a cancer that the Camarilla has seen again and again. It's only gotten worse since so many in the Bruja and Gangrel clans defected to join them. If we leave them here to fester, there are Masquerade breach waiting to happen. The Masquerade, the one set of rules almost all civilized kindred can agree upon. Mortals can never be allowed to learn about the supernatural reality that encircles them. Nothing is more important to a vampire in modern night. Of course, such widespread deception is impossible to maintain constantly, and the occasional breach has led to the rise of professional vampire hunters and secretive government agencies allied into a second inquisition, the greatest threat to your kind in centuries. The sheriff gestures towards the building. We're to take out the leader. Widening our scope to include the other agitators lessens our chances of decapitating the beast. Corliss told me that your input is to be trusted, Pauline, so now's your time to show us what you're made of. What's your read on the situation? Oh boy, let me look at the stats. Oh god, okay, they're not split into dots. Is there a hunger thing anywhere? Oh god, okay, you know what? It's up there at the top. It said I was satisfied, so using my vampiric gifts, I can see through the darkest night, allowing me to survey the field with supernatural precision. Let's do that instead of reading the other options. You counsel Bouchard and Q to be silent for a moment as you step away from them into the darkness. You concentrate on channeling the blood. Your contemporaries believe that you've accomplished in the art of Auspex, that you're accomplished in the art of Auspex, but this particular gift is a darker one, the way of the Lasombra. One of these nights, your superior gifts will be respected, even feared by the other kindred of the court, but for now, you must practice them in secret. It chafes when you think about it. Even the mindless zealots of the Sabbat wield their power more openly than you. But then again, most of the Sabbat have been run out of the country or destroyed, while you may remain here in a position of power and privilege. To be a Lasombra is to fight, survive, and win. Sometimes loath as you are to admit it, coming out on top requires a period of performative humility. Your irises go black, and in seconds you can see perfectly what the darkness once hid from your view. While the construction site hasn't technically changed, myriad new elements of the topography stands out that you had been previously unaware of. You imagine it's not all that unlike a blind man miraculously being able to see for the first time. You scrutinize the factory where Bouchard had noted the sentries, immediately spotting at least two more humanoid shapes lurking deeper in the shadows. There are two more sentries, you whisper. Q curses. Not only that, you continue, the ones in the dark have guns, too. There's no question, then, Lucas says, arms crossed as she peers in the same direction. We have to go around and catch them by surprise. Bouchard glides over to you, his steps almost silent, even to your enhanced senses, although the stench of the ancient sewer rat is enough to make you feel ill. Okay, this is Bouchard. Look for heavily trod areas away from the obvious entrance, a side door or escape vector. You noticed it before he even spoke. A small door of corrugated metal blending in almost perfectly with the rusted wall of the decaying building. The area immediately outside it has been disturbed by multiple sets of footprints, and you'd guess it was recently. You tell the old Nas what you see, and he nods thoughtfully before passing the info off to Q. We should use the hidden door, and you can tell, Lucas says, and you can tell she sensed it too. I mean, they could have sentries anywhere, but they're least likely to expect us coming this way. And it's closer to where the report says Ward's chambers are. It'd be stupid to waste our time attacking from the front. This is the smart option, don't you agree? Yeah, I do, actually. Luca is right, we can't get carried away and rush in. Taking the side door is the only smart choice. Corliss insist. Okay, that's Q. Corliss insisted that I respect your input, but you are certain that this is the best course of action? Q asks you and Luca. As sheriff, I have several mandates from the prince, including punishing those who flout the tradition of hospitality. These kindred have not only abandoned the Camarilla, but they've infringed on our domain unannounced. The penalty for such a violation is final death. Corliss ordered a blood hunt on Robert Ward, you say. If we get caught up fighting his father, he could escape, and all this will be for nothing. It's a fair point, Bouchard rasps. Let us do what we came to do and be done with it. This should be a job for the mercenaries, and I'm growing weary of running about in all this moonlight. Bad for the skin. Our Q groans, but you can still see the indecision in his eyes. Normally, I'd override this decision. I can't remember the voice. He groans, but you're correct, Pauline. The Seneschal's orders were clear. We'll avoid the front entrance and concentrate on getting to Ward as quickly as possible. We can't allow him a chance to escape. Luca grins. This will be good. He won't suspect a thing. The rusty corrugated metal bites into the palms of your hands as you shift it gently from side to side. It's not so much a door as a makeshift panel to camouflage a hole in the factory wall, really, but your second sight rarely lies. This entrance was favored by a number of past arrivals. You take your time, the door shifting almost imperceptibly as you gaze into the blackness beyond. Your eyes shift slowly, penetrating the dark and revealing its secrets. What you discover nearly sends you into a panic. Each time your eyes sweep through the murk, they notice yet another sentry, each armed with a heavy rifle held at sling-ready position. You counted a small blessing that each is focused on the front entrance rather than the shadowed breach you entered through. But if you stay there, it's only a matter of time before a stray glance reveals your position. You can feel Luca shift behind you, stifling a gasp when she sees them too. Not far from you, a dim light marks the location of Robert Ward's office, in the exact place your intelligence report suggested it would be. Closer scrutiny reveals an outline well described by Curlis, a bulky behemoth that could only be the quarry you seek. As you move aside as the last of the mercenaries silently enter the building, using hand signals to coordinate their advance. We have to move in, Kwai whispers lowly enough, Q, that you can barely hear him from a foot away. There's someone approaching us from behind. They were ready for us, you reply, creeping inside at the show's perhaps. Armed sentries. Q slips past you, creeping through the dark alongside Bouchard with uncanny agility, wearing the shadows like a cloak as they both target the two guards between your position and Ward's office. Now, for the first time, you marvel at the horror's ability to hide in plain sight, although you're hardly envious. Simply imagining your features scarred and peppered with fissures and pustules makes you feel ill. Nonetheless, never let it be said that they aren't good at their work. Bouchard strikes first, covering his victim's mouth with a pallid hand before pulling him into the darkness. Q follows much the same, and in a matter of seconds they appear by your side again. One side of Q's mouth is quirked up, and a smirk. Mortals, he whispers. Most of these sentries are mortal. We have a clear shot to his office now. We're not going to get a better chance at this. You approach the office. You're almost to your target, and as far as you can tell, you haven't been detected. Well, we'll just make this easier for us. Then, let's go. Oh, look at that, an achievement. How in the hell? Robert Ward leaps. Oh, how the hell? How the hell? Robert Ward leaps back from behind a cheap metal desk, kicking it forward in an effort to slow you down. At first, you think you've tracked down the wrong man. Well-worn jean overalls smudged with black grease and a red checkered shirt hardly evokes a sense of fear or respect. But one glance at Q's face confirms that you're right where you're supposed to be. Momentary surprise vanishes from Ward's face, replaced by a grim determination as he dashes forward faster than your eye can track and grabs you by the neck. With your heightened awareness, you can feel each individual muscle in his fingers contracting as he lifts you from the floor. Clarissa's child, Ward grunts, eyes narrowing as he scrutinizes your face. You're being used, Pauline. This isn't how it has to end. Okay, that's, You annex are all the same, all brawn and no brains. Surrender to us now, and the rest of your gang might survive to see another night. Your ignorance speaks volumes, whelp, he grunts. I wanted to give you a chance, Pauline, but maybe you're not ready to hear the truth. The muscles in Ward's left hand tense around your neck as his right arm wraps around your torso with the speed of a viper. In your peripheral vision, you can see Q charging forward, seemingly in slow motion as the world revolves around you in a sickening spiral. Ward heaves you backward with such a force that the fragile brick wall explodes outward, sending you flying almost 100 feet into the open air in a graceless arc, your world tumbling around you. Time seems to slow as you descend, jagged pieces of rebar slashing at your neck and chest as you manage to twist aside just in time to avoid being impaled grotesquely on the leaning wall. On the leaning wall of a partially demolished building. You hit the ground, skidding and twisting through a field of heavy gravel and chunks of pulverized concrete, which tear at your open wounds. When you finally come to a stop, your vision swims, red-rimmed and dark in one eye. You blink for a moment, imagining you must be hallucinating, but then the spinning twin visions converge on each other, manifesting in the form of a cowering mortal couple. One of them has been struck in the head by a fist-sized chunk of brick. Blood oozes from the deep gash, and their companion, who had been holding a bit of cloth to their forehead in an attempt to staunch the flow, has dropped it in favor of shooting their partner. Stinging pangs of desire overwhelm you, and for a moment all you can see is a talking sack of meat and blood. Please, we need to get us to a doctor, the mortal stutters. Stupid thing to say, if only because you doubtless look worse than they do. Your hands claw at the dust and gravel as you pull yourself forward, unable to vocalize your desperate need. Your only true desire in this moment. Primal hunger overwhelms years of social programming and Camarilla directives. The loss of blood as your body mended itself has awakened the beast within. You must feed. As you grow closer, you lose focus again, and the couple swims before your eyes, their faces changing into ghostly visions as what remains of your humanity does battle with the beast threatening to consume you. It digs through long hidden memories, slowly reeling you back from the brink of madness. The appearance of the uninjured mortal twists and morphs until you are staring at into a mirrored set of eyes, a mirrored face, a mirrored soul from a time before it was indelibly stained by corruption. You would weep to see this earlier version of yourself if you had tears left to shed. This choice determines your gender and age. Um, in nope. Oh, never mind. Before me, I see the image of a young woman, powerful and defiant. Your eyes shift away from your mirror image to her companion, and a sharp pang of anguish racks your body and mind. Long forgotten memories of a partner you once cherished float before you, marred by the deep gash on their forehead, a bloody omen of an unforgivable betrayal that will never truly be forgotten, no matter how distant your undeath draws you from your earlier life. Um, bro. Just gonna let it be the first thing. I see a vision of a woman I once loved, smiling and foolhardy. In this moment of pure animal desperation, all you can think of, all you want in the world, is to brush your lips against hers and banish the eternal cold of undeath, even if only for a fraction of a second, to relive some of what has been lost, to heal your mind as well as your body. This unearthly desire proves too great to resist. You draw forward, embracing your lover and pulling her close. She struggles at first, but eventually yields to your touch, a deep groan of pleasure on her lips. The feeling is euphoric. Hot tears stream down your cheeks, and your chest constricts with gut wrenching emotion as your embrace spans what feels like hours of pure bliss. And then there is pain. You're able to ignore it at first, but it returns with a vengeance as your lover is torn from your arms, a sad smile etched on her lips. No! The word rips its way out from the bottom of your black and shriveled lungs. Not again. Your eyes shift to the demon pulling your lover away, and you recognize yourself in its face once again. Not as you once were, but as you are now, soul twisted and shriveled, a gaping maw with protruding fangs. You leap forward, ripping your doppelganger away from her, before plunging your teeth into her neck. Not ever again. You grunt. I can't do the emotion in that. You grunt against her flesh, crimson bubbles flowering at the edges of your mouth as you scream defiance, even while you drain your personal demon dry. When at last she breathes no more, you fall back, triumphant exhaustion fading as your body finishes knitting itself together again. Reality settles around you, and you feel a biting sting of dread as you turn to take in the true scene. The mutilated body of a young woman lies sprawled on the ground, her neck torn open and hanging at an unnatural angle, expression locked in sheer terror and disbelief. She's tightly grasping the hand of another mortal she'd somehow held on even as you drain the life from her body. Unlike her partner, the surviving young woman has yet to succumb to oblivion. Irregular breathing causes her chest to rise and fall, and her eyes drift listlessly until they alight on you. Your lips and chin slathered in a mix of blood from both your victims. She tries to scream, but finds herself unable to summon the necessary breath, and all that comes from her lips is a pitiful squeak of a prey animal. She's dying. She knows it. You know it. I don't want to die here. She rasps, her knuckles going white as she clutches her dead partner's hand. Your head is spinning as you sink to your knees before the woman, unable to banish this vision of lover's face. Her expression of betrayal was not at all dissimilar to the gaze of this young woman, soft eyes searching for answers and wondering how you could have done such a thing. Please. Um, sure. She deserves mercy. Killing her is the most humane thing I can do. You're not certain why you choose to take mercy on this mortal. The memories she evoked are painful, and part of your undead instinct dearly wishes for her to suffer for making you remember. Perhaps your mercy is merely pragmatism. If your victim somehow manages to survive against all odds, she could be a masquerade risk that may be traced back to you, and your sire would doubtlessly treat you with far less charity than you showed your own victim. You kneel beside her and pick up a knife-like shard of debris. You could shoot her, but you don't want to attract too much attention while you're still on your own and only newly mended. To business, then. You grit your teeth as you slash the mortal's throat with the makeshift knife. She gasps and blood pulses through the wound. Such a waste. Within seconds, she's on the ground, blissfully passed on to whatever afterlife awaits her. Your newly mended legs carry you over the stony grit with remarkable strength, your renewed sense of vigor immediately apparent as you tread uneven terrain. The crashing churn of the nearby dam might largely mask the sound of gunfire if you didn't know to listen, but sporadic bursts indicate that the battle is still in full swing. You round a large pile of dirt, approaching the building from the rear as you when you hear a guttural shout of warning from within. The factory abruptly explodes in a fiery conflagration, showering you in an avalanche of brick and wood and concrete debris. You stand still for a moment, stunned and rooted to the spot before your bestial vampiric instincts overwhelm you and you flee the fire, heedless of other, more mundane concerns. It takes several minutes for you to wrest control back and turn yourself around. You grind your teeth as you force your feet to carry you back towards the demolished building, your unnaturally strong aversion to the flames screaming in the back of your mind. The air itself smells burnt, and your eyes sting from the clouds of disturbed dust. That maniac Ward must have rigged this place to blow. The shock wears off when you see that the flames have already burned out. The majority of the building was built of metal and brick, and you try not to cringe as you wade into the wreckage, gun held at the ready. Someone in your group must have survived. They can't all be destroyed. I search, hoping to find Luca. She's close to me, after all, the child of my own sire. You pass by the twisted and burned remains of several mercenaries, and as time goes by, you begin to wonder if any of your companions made it out intact. The sense of charred flesh and burnt hairs are overwhelming as you push an office door to check inside. The contents of several filing cabinets have disgorged hundreds of manila folders across two heavy-looking metal desks, papers scattered manically across their surfaces and spilled over the edges. From behind one of the desks, you hear a familiar voice call out. It's Luca. Who's there? The muzzle of a gun pops out from the edge of the desk. Answer me or you're dead, asshole. It's me, Luca, you say calmly. Put the gun down. I haven't seen a single mortal or any of Ward's anarchs left moving around in here. A quick sigh of relief, and Luca rises up from behind a veritable mountain of papers, folders, and ruined computer equipment. We had Ward on the run. Q was sure that we had him. Did you manage to finish him? No, Luca says. Bouchard and Q had him flanked, and I was taking shots, but you know the rabble. Fast as they are, pretentious. He jumped through a window right before the blast. After that, we really weren't in any kind of shape to go after him. I couldn't think with the flames surrounding me. I didn't have much time to gather my thoughts, so I hid here until I could think straight. She shakes her head. We need to search for survivors and witnesses before the police get here. I'm not going to be blamed for a masquerade breach when I've barely been back home for a month. They started this mess, shot at us and tried to destroy us. At this point, taking them out is self-defense. She's looking a bit more than a bit unnerved after such a close brush with final death. It's the first time in decades either of you has seen real action, but since she's determined to make it through, you decide not to point out that it was technically your party who initiated the encounter. Luca probably wouldn't appreciate the correction. Yeah, we'll eliminate the anarchs or their mercenaries in the area, but we can't search for long. The local authorities will most certainly be on their way. Good. That's the best idea. Lucas says you can't tell if she's telling you or if she's trying to convince herself. Let's get going. As soon as you open the door to exit the small office, you spot a quick flurry of movement on the other side of the building. Luca motions towards it and starts off at a trot. You follow, not sure you relish another battle after such a close brush with death, but fully understanding Luca's reasoning for why it must be done. You follow after her, pursuing the running target, the mortal. You can't tell if she is one at this point. Whirls in place and when she notices you and fumbles at her belt, pulling loose a cylindrical metal object. Effing burn, freaks! She shouts before pulling the pin from the object and hurling it into in your direction. Grenade! Luca yells. Oh, goodness. Yeah, sure. I use my strength. No, actually. Yeah. I use my full strength to knock Luca back as far out of the way as we can. There's no time to think. You slam the full weight of your body into Luca's, causing both of you to hurtle away from the grenade's trajectory before it explodes, sending waves of burning hot shrapnel whizzing through the air. Luca rolls to her feet before you can, bringing her gun to bear on the surprised mortal and pulling the trigger 3 times. The woman's body jerks with each impact and then slumps over, dead before she hits the floor. Thanks for the save, Luca says with a stuttering smile. She looks back and forth through the smoky building, checking for movement. I think we should get the heck out of here. You can't help but agree. You navigate the crumbled walls and beams, exhaling a sigh of relief when you finally exit the factory. Q and Jordan are arguing over a kneeling prisoner who's badly wounded and bound tightly. Behind them, you see Bouchard and the others. Many are singed or limping, but none have seem to have met final death. Q gives you an appraising look. Looks like you're tougher than I thought, Pauline. Ward hit you with a dang truck. Like a dang truck. It's good to see you too, Sheriff. Oh, look at that. Q pushes the prisoner to get him moving. The Pharaoh looks none too pleased, but he follows his instructions. For now. We need to go, the sheriff says, his calm cracking under pressure as he looks about furtively. Eden, Eden can only keep the police away for so long. If we get caught, we'll be wishing that maniac had finished us off in the warehouse. Your exhausted party picks themselves up and limps towards the bridge leading back into Ottawa, your pace speeding up when sirens blare from the north over the border in Gatineau. Bouchard nearly topples over as he lurches into a run, and two of his mercenaries lean down to help him up. Luca looks over her shoulder, face painted with worry. Corliss doesn't have the reach that the prince did across the river, she says as you arrive at the edge of the construction site. If Arundel really was beckoned, we have a lot of slack to pick up. It's a good thing that Corliss brought me back here when she did. She edges you into a full run as police sirens grow closer. It's too early to make assumptions, you grunt, your foot almost catching a metal support bar as you cross the bridge at a run. We already have enough trouble with the Anarchs. Rarely is the weight of power more keenly felt than in the event of its sudden absence. The bedrock of Ottawa's Camarilla had been patiently chipped away by 100 knives, each skillfully wielded by those kindred whose day-spawn dreams bloomed ripe with a hunger for ascension, eternally waiting out of reach. But they could wait. Undeath, after all, conferred a distinct advantage over the fleeting ambitions of humanity, and now it seemed their long nights of plotting were about to pay off. 4 nights ago, Ottawa's prince had simply disappeared, abandoning engagement which she always held, routinely met with extreme punctuality. What was first seen as an unusual political slight became a concern on the second night of missed appearances, and by the third and fourth, unrest within the community was all but inevitable. As the Princess Seneschal, your sire, Eden Corliss, now faces the full weight of responsibility, and powerful kindred have already expressed doubts about her ability to handle the pressure, even before Arundel's vanishing act. Of course, if she manages to impress them, she may rise to the office of prince herself, despite what some might think. The title has always been gender-neutral. Handsome fellow. It's nearly dawn when you arrive back to your haven, exhausted from the night's events. You throw open the carved wooden doors, pleased to find Gerard. It's Gerard, okay. Pleased to find Gerard waiting for you attentively. His face creased with worry. He's dressed as befits his station, a well-tailored suit, not quite ostentatious enough to feel completely out of place on the average Ottawa street, but sufficiently genteel if he were required to attend the larger kindred court. Gerard is one of the only mortals aware of your true clan, and he guards the secret of your somber heritage with his life. He also handles the majority of your tasks that will require you to deal with advanced computers and other technical gadgets of the modern era. Vampire of your bloodline have a devil of a time using such tools thanks to your connection to the abyss. Your clothes are in tatters, he states dryly. Did your evening not go as planned? When you don't immediately respond, he continues. Fortunately, I've acquired a new vessel for you. He's been waiting in the guest room should you have need of him. Whereas many kindred of your standing employ more than one retainer to do their bidding, you've been fortunate enough with Gerard's skill set that the idea of acquiring a second servant rarely enters your mind. As with many personal attendants, Gerard is a ghoul, a mortal, who has been granted a taste of your own blood in exchange for unnatural strength and abilities. These powers come at the price of much of their free will. Ghouls become addicted to their master or mistress's blood, and the withdrawal symptoms can be quite cruel. So why only have one when they make such devoted servants? The Lassombre ruling over their Sabbat packs, after all, are known for massive bracing and the indiscriminate usage of mortal pawns. But you're more forward-thinking than the cults of Cain could ever be. That's why you'll succeed where they failed. Each ghoul requires maintenance, a regular feeding of your own precious vitae to maintain their agelessness and enhanced strength, and you have little wish to be so burdened with the additional upkeep where one superior servant will do nicely. Universally adapted to your needs, your ghoul also excels in one area in particular. Oh, fun. Um, sure, he was a butler for one of the wealthiest families north of the U.S. border. His attention to detail is uncanny. Gerard's life has been spent in the service of the family, of a wealthy family politician. Sorry. Gerard's life had been spent in service to the family of a wealthy politician in the late 1800s. His detail oriented loyalty had been such that he attracted the true power behind the money, the Camarilla elite. When he was afflicted with a deadly disease, his masters had offered him the choice of agelessness in exchange for an eternity of service. If the records are to be believed, Gerard hadn't so much as blinked before agreeing to the terms. When you had proven yourself as a neonate, Prince Arundel had gifted him to you. The gifting of ghoul servants is relatively rare, but passing the blood bond to you had gone surprisingly smoothly. You discard your clothes, and Gerard collects them gingerly, his nose wrinkling at the state of disrepair. Oh, these won't be of much use to you anymore. I'll see about replacing them. That'll be good, Gerard, thank you. If I may be so bold, ma'am, Gerard asks with his unusual degree of trepidation, with an unusual degree of trepidation in his voice. Has Prince Arundel resurfaced yet? I've heard rumors amongst the servants they believe he's left the city. Excuse me. Um, we don't know yet, I admit. I'll be speaking with Corliss about it tomorrow once I've had time to rest. That was unexpectedly candid of you, Mum, Gerard says. I appreciate it. The greater my knowledge, the better I will be able to serve. He inclines his head with respect. Will that be all for today? Just about, you say, weariness enveloping you as the outside world grows closer to dawn. I'll be needed at Corliss's office tomorrow, and I may be gone for most of the night. I have a job for you in the meantime. Oh boy, okay. Yeah, I do like that first option. I'd like you to research the construction site at Shawtery Crossing. Let me know if if any known kindred have ties to it. Of course, Mom. I'll get on it right away, and hopefully have something helpful by the time you're done with your sire tomorrow night. Gerard finally leaves you in peace, and you make your way to your bedchamber, eager to put the disastrous night behind you. It surprises you how easily you fell back into the pattern of violence from your fledgling days, but now that you have a time to reflect, your entire body shudders and you feel weak in the knees. And life in the upper crust of Ottawa's Camarillas society is rarely dull and is filled with very real dangers. But though those attacks are of a political nature, and to fall back, and to fall in a battle of wits rarely leads to a violent and bloody end, although it's certainly not to happen. Tonight, you faced final death on more than one occasion, and the resulting flood of memories from your mortal life brought back a heavy weight of long repressed guilt. Such emotion should be the domain of mortal shadow, not a magister like yourself, and yet you feel it weighing on your spirit regardless. Perhaps retaining a link to your humanity isn't the worst thing that can happen. Corliss made sure you devoted much of your study to the fundamentals of your vampiric nature. To understand yourself is to know why the Sabbat failed. There is no reasoning in their blind zealotry, no attempts to truly comprehend who they are or realize their place in the world. It led to the destruction and the fall of Montreal. Their failure sickens you, as it should any proper Lasombra in modern knights. Fear of dying is a persistent instinct in both mortal and vampires alike. Even decades after your first death, you're surprised to feel the faux spike of adrenaline and the gnawing fear of the grave. Agelessness, as you'd quickly learned upon your embrace, can be violently stripped away, much the same as it is granted. Left to their own devices, a vampire's unlife could extend indefinitely, but the undead eventually desire purpose. True to the spirit of your damned nature, this desire manifests in the form of deadly politics, activism, or violence. For years now, the latter of these has been the furthest thing from your thoughts. But thanks to Corliss's prompting and Robert Ward's strangely personal attack, you're once again reminded that you are an inherently violent creature, and the thought both repulses and intrigues you, although not in equal measures. Um, Sure, spoken like a true Lasombra. The means to an end are irrelevant as long as the outcome benefits Camarilla society and quashes anarch activity within the city. You approach your bedchamber with relief, all other details flying from your burdened mind as you focus on renewing your strength by sleeping the day away. Hmm. Not the coffin. Um, yeah, sure. I sleep on a plush mattress in a lavish bedroom. The bed itself hemmed by luxurious blackout curtains. I like to imagine that the room is very, for the most part, covered in black, like furniture and like black lights and what have you, and like with the occasional accent of red. What good is an ageless unlife if you can't lead it in style? You close your curtains and sink into the mattress with a deep sigh, gazing up at the canopy as you settle in to sleep. An image floats before you of the mortal you attacked tonight in a rage of hunger, and in your blood starved mind you'd been certain that they were someone from your past before the embrace. A lover, perhaps, although you can no longer recall the particulars. What you can remind is the intense feeling of wrongness you felt, like there was a secret locked within your mind, nagging from behind a wall of repressed memory. You close your eyes and images flood back in, quick flashes before solidifying into a scene you'd visited often, but never remembered in your waking hours. A lost memory stolen from your cold and long dead mind, but it's resurfacing more frequently now as if something has shaken it loose to rattle around in your head like a specter. You'd been chosen by your sire because of your mortal abilities, because your mortal abilities fit with her ideals for the Somber clan. The dead have no need of mortal memories, but without some anchor to your past, will your humanity be gone forever? The vision is as vivid as it always is, and for fleeting seconds you're confused as to why you're surprised. You've always been here. This is who you are. In life, before you were chosen by Corliss to join Clan Lasombra, you were... Oh boy. I do not want to be a politician. Oh my god, okay. Sure. No, politician it is, because my normal route of talking my way out of things. Alright, a politician who was the true power behind a high profile elected official. You remember now, you remember everything. Your life, your death, your embrace. No, no, that's not right at all. The scent of blood, oblivion flooding over your senses like a cool wave, and an entirely unfamiliar set of eyes staring back as the gift of undeath takes you. Dead eyes glazing over as they watch you rise. The disturbing image of your past is replaced by a more comforting one. Your sire hovering over you as she brought you back from the brink. You remember the smile on her blood-smeared face, the light from above casting a radiant halo around her head. In that singular moment, she was the most beautiful thing you had ever seen, and knew with unerring certainty that each night of your continued agelessness was a gift she had seen fit to bestow upon you. And this, gamers, is what we will continue in the next episode. I think I'm going to wrap this one up much quicker than I normally do the other ones. Couldn't tell you why. Maybe it's because I keep stuttering. Maybe it's because I'm not vibing with this one as intensely as I vibed with the sands of Tuscan, Arizona. But I am enjoying it. For Parliament of Knives, we've got Pauline, a charismatic former politician who was the seat behind the throne, who also happens to be fairly strong and lives on a very plush and famous, not famous, that's not the right word, but her apartment is lavish, is what I'm getting at. She has a manservant named Gerard. Very nice. What an image, and that paints comparatively to good old Teddy from Night Roads. Alright, gamers, thank you for joining me in this. If you have, I very much appreciate it, and we'll see you all in the next one.